Welcome to the special full council meeting being held Tuesday 10th of January. It is just gone 5:30, so we will start. As a matter of housekeeping, we're unable to live stream this meeting as we normally do with full council meetings this evening. However, it will be recorded, is being recorded, and will be uploaded in the morning, so can be referred to later. We'll crack on with the first item on the agenda, which is declarations of any disclosable pecuniary interests to receive any additional interest not already registered. Obviously, if anything should come up in the course of the conversations, please feel free to indicate. Are there any that have not been already disclosed, please? Nope, super. In that case, we will move on to the next agenda item, which is apologies for absence, please, Karen.
Apologies from councillors Crawford, Downing, Hollis, Jeremy, Parker.
Thank you very much. So to the main body of the meeting, which is agenda item 554, which is the approval of the revised budget. As you will recall, at full council, it was decided that the Finance Committee would revise the budget to ensure that the precept would not increase by any more than 20%. Papers have been circulated which provide you with that. Increases in property rental in terms of the shambles and the former art gallery and contributions to reserves were areas that were suggested could be investigated to limit that precept increase. The Finance Committee met on the 4th of January and recommended the attached budget to full council for review and decision. The paper sets out the major contributing factors considered by the Finance Committee in reaching its decision to recommend said budget to full council. The Finance Committee was asked to consider re-looking at property rentals and whether this income source could be used to offset increases in the precept. The reason that the original budget assumed that there could be no property rental from the former art gallery and that the two units in the shambles will remain vacant. Obviously, we have building issues in terms of the art gallery space, and it's not usable at this point in time, so we can't consider renting it out. We have considered that we will have two, and that's we run at about 50% occupancy. So that gives some flexibility in terms of talking about it. And obviously, should rentals increase, then that gives us further opportunity and scope. There is a huge element of uncertainty in terms of the timing for the external works on the Guildhall, which is obviously also difficult to predict. So in true accountancy terms, we are on the side of caution rather than being over optimistic and overcommitting this council. We've looked at reducing the contributions to reserves, and you'll see those in the papers. The principle of reducing contributions to reserves in the longer term is not sustainable by this organisation. The reason is that the reserves funds most of the council's projects, and in the current rate of project expenditure, reserves will be eroded within 4 years if no further contributions are made. The council must set aside £25,000 to pay for the elections in May 2023 should all seats be contested. At present, there is approximately £16,000 in the election cost reserve. An additional £9,000 has therefore been budgeted in 2023-24 to ensure that this liability can be funded. In addition, at least £6,250 will also need to be made annually thereafter to ensure that the reserve will be sufficient in 2027. So again, that element of forward planning. That is the reason why the contributions to reserves sits at the grand total of £15,250. It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance Committee that an overall contribution in reserves be made of £45,541. This reduction has been proportionately allocated to all the reserve contribution accounts, excluding the election cost contribution for reasons as stated. And the council may need to reprioritise its activities should further reductions in contributions to reserves be required. It's also anticipated that a reduction of 4% in the original budgeted salaries can be achieved through staffing changes that typically occur in any organisation. And this is prudent as it is extremely unlikely that all positions will be filled in every month of the year. Furthermore, when the original salaries budget was prepared, the final statement for salaries, staff salaries for the 2021-22 period had not been finalised. Using the latest staffing costs as the base for next year means that the original budgeted salaries should be marginally lower. The impact of the changes are that the changes recommended to full council by the Finance Committee are that to ensure that the council can continue to operate on a sustainable basis, limit the increase to 20% as requested by this body, and to set the precept for a Band D property will be £154.63 per annum, increasing from £128.86 per annum. We recommend the budget on that basis. Obviously, it's the budget that we initially approve under this agenda item, as is legally required to us. The approval of precept is a separate agenda item. I'll open the floor for discussion, please. Councillor Brain, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the finance meeting, I didn't agree. We should be taking 45k out of reserves. I do not see it as a precedent that this council should be doing. We are here, and our job is to make sure that we run the town with the finances appropriately. We do not start selling off the family silver, not in our term. Wasn't what we were elected for. So I think that the actual reserves and keeping this council on a sound footing for the years to come is extremely important. And I would look at other ways of saving 45,000. We are paying £18,500 to water plants in the high street through the summer. I do not understand why. If we have a summer like we did last year, we spent £18,500 and most of them died because the heat and the whole summer was too much for them. They didn't look anything like as good as they have done in the past. And I don't believe that they actually entice trade to our high streets. And I'm quite sure that when our constituents are facing food or heat, they really need us to spend £18,500 on putting some flowers in King Street. Does not make sense. Equally, for me, the expenditure of the Christmas lights, is not recorded even close to correctly in the paperwork that we're given. We actually have the opportunity to make that Christmas light event make money for this town. It should, with no problem at all, with 2,000 to 3,000 people turning up. And it's only 2,000 or 3,000 people that turn up. And this town has got over 25,000 people who we're asking to pay for that. I don't feel that that is correct in this time of hardship. If we actually had it in the budget correctly, where we looked at what we actually make out of that evening by letting space and having rides and getting people to pay because they're going to make money out of it, I believe we probably would have made £5,000 on the night. They've actually come off the 21,000. So the Christmas lights is only down to 16,000. I don't believe we're budgeting correctly. And then you look at the fact that we have a public toilet at the bus station that is solely the responsibility of Norfolk County Council. It is for them to run it and clean it. We are currently paying £20,000 a year to do their job for them. And nobody can explain to me why we should saddle our residents twice because Norfolk County Council will be putting their precept up by as much as they can do. And those toilets are their responsibility. So therefore, the residents of Thetford pay twice to keep those toilets going. Once to us and once to Norfolk. Now, if you take those three items out of our budget, we have saved more than 45,000, which then the precept could be as little as 18.3%, not even 20%. So why are we not looking at these things that are not our responsibility? Why don't we? I've heard the argument that Norfolk will shut the toilets. So let Norfolk shut the toilets. We're not. It's not our responsibility. And why should our residents have to pay twice? So I don't think we're doing it correctly by just going for this recommendation to save 45.5k, when we could actually save more and save our residents more and put the money in their pockets so they can heat and feed themselves. That's my argument with this proposal.
Councillor Harvey, please.
You'll be not surprised to know that I disagree with Roy. I believe the Christmas lights are a bonus to the town. They cheer people up, the kiddies love them, they're really good for people's mental health. You cannot always put a price on people's mental health. The flower baskets, etc. If you want a plain looking concrete street, do away with the flower basket. It doesn't make sense. We've always been proud of our main street. We talk about the heritage, we have the black planters, we have the hanging baskets. I possibly agree we could do away with every other one, which has been discussed, but to save 1.7% to do away with Christmas lights and the hanging baskets. Now, I'm not an expert on finance. I've scoured the budget time and time again. And what I looked at and concerned me more than anything was any cuts we make to that now impact more on the residents than the precept we're going to put on. And that's what bothered me, to be fair. I mean, was it £1 something a month? Much as I dislike the precept going up by what it is, I'd much rather didn't. But I would like to ask a question. If we get in a more, are we allowed to bring the precept down next time round, next year?
That is a decision for the council next year.
Procedure-wise, whether we're allowed, it doesn't stick at this rate for the next amount of years.
The council have the right to set their precept as they see fit. I'm not going to hold another council to something this year that we can do.
Because I know when petrol goes up. Okay.
That is a choice to be made by the next council.
Maybe ignore that.
Yes, councillor Tullett, please.
So I agree with some of the things that Roy says, especially about the hanging baskets, but it's really only in effect to look good for 4 months of the year. I do agree with Christmas lights, but besides all that, this was discussed at the last full council meeting, and there was little appetite for sending the budgets back to the committees to make any cuts in their budget. And that is why the Finance Committee was tasked with reducing the amount going into reserves. That was what the Finance Committee was tasked with. That's what they've done, and that's what their recommendation has come back at with the adjusted budget, which I support.
Thank you, Barbara. Yes, please, councillor Canham.
Well, it's just a quick one, really, because listening to what people are saying, and Chris asked the question, can we put what's it for next year? No, we can't. But actually, what we're doing this year, by cutting back what we put in reserves, is going to make it even harder next year. So we're not making life any easier for the next council, because we're going to be short next year, the year after, and the year after, and it's going to continue. So I just think if you make that decision today, you've got to think of the new council have really got to start looking at it. What is the aims of the town council, and work for that.
So for clarification, can I just state that nothing is being taken out of the reserves? We are reducing the amount that we contribute to the reserves as one proposal. So the proposal is that property repairs has a contribution to reserves of £42,659. Office equipment is £8,204. St Peter's, which we know requires a heck of a lot of work, £9,844. And the play park renewals, which you will recall that this council has committed to spending money out of its reserves this year to ensure that our young people have a place to play safely, £26,252. The projected reserve figures were circulated to you all with these figures. We're not completely robbing them, but we are mindful, as was stated in there, that if we continue to spend in this way and continue to reduce what we put in there, it is not sustainable long term. So we've mitigated what we are putting in at this point. It is not as much as we think we should, but it is still something. It is this council's decision if that something is enough. If it's not, you then need to make that decision. The decision sits here, and preferably this evening. Alan, could I ask you to clarify in terms of the point Councillor Brain made regarding the recording of income? Would that be possible, please?
Sure, Madam Chair. What we do at the budget perspective is we don't actually do activity-based budgeting. We do line item budgeting. So, for example, if you took the Guildhall tea room, we would show the income coming in on the income side of it, and we'd show the purchases and the costs going up at the expenditure side. We do not offset them. I think what Councillor Brain has asked is he's actually saying that there's some income that possibly we could separate out and look at that when the Christmas lights switch on. We just don't keep the records at that particular level. So the income from Christmas lights is being recorded in the income. It'll be budgeted in the income. We have things like specialist markets, and other activities that events income, and the expenditure is shown in the amenities budget as a line item of expenditure. So it's not incorrect budgeting, it's just that the budgeting is not activity based.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to comment on this, please? I agree. We will therefore move to the vote. The recommendation therefore is, bear with.
Before we go to this vote, just wanted to make it clear so that everybody actually knows exactly the same way as when we voted for the last one, when we wouldn't put it up. This is a recorded vote. This is showing that you are responsible for how many pounds you take out of your constituents' pockets. Thank you.
Can I also highlight that this is always a recorded vote, has always been a recorded vote, both for the budget approval and the precept setting, which are two separate items. They are also a recorded vote for making clear our plans for this council. Councillor Harvey, please.
I mean, regarding voicing, I mean, I'm quite prepared to stand by the decisions I've made in the past. That's all I can do. In hindsight, who knows? But no, I'm quite happy to stand by the decisions that I make. And if the residents think I'm wrong, then we'll know in May.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. I don't think we will ever please all of the people all of the time. But I think you're absolutely right that actually, if you can justify the reasons for making the decision and actually able to articulate those to residents, whilst there might be a disagreement, at least there's a respect for being able to articulate those reasons. You're absolutely right. So the budget that you have before you, crikey. So the recommendation is to approve the budget as previously circulated, providing to approve the budget as previously circulated. Can I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Tullett. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Harvey. All those in favour, please. If you can just keep your hands up for purposes of the recorded vote. Thank you. All those against, please. And abstention. The budget is duly carried. We then move on to 555, which is the approval of the precept. So subject to the approval of the revised budget of 2023-24 to approve the precept for a Band D property. You have just approved the budget, which therefore means the precept for a Band D property increases to £154.63 a year, which is a 20% increase compared to the previous year. Do I have a proposer, please? Thank you, councillor Tunnett. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Brindle. All those in favour, please. And again, it's a recorded vote, so bear with us. Okay. All those against, please. And one abstention. Thank you all very much. That is duly carried. So I move on to agenda item 55622, which is the exclusion of press and public, and I've even put my teeth in properly today for it. So to consider resolving that, pursuant to the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, the press and public be excluded for any remaining items of business on the grounds that publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be discussed. I'm happy to propose that given the nature of the next agenda item. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, councillor Canham. All those in favour, please. Any against? Oh, no, that's unanimous then. No, thanks, Mike. That is duly carried.